Hello and welcome to today's episode. This is a combination of 3 different conversations recorded on different dates, the first one being from May 11th. Trigger warning, we do talk about pregnancy and pregnancy loss, so we ask that you listen to the entirety of this episode before making any comments.
We are here in our new podcast room with our new mugs. Cheers.
Yeah.
Start of a new era.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling good. Living better.
Yeah, what do you guys think of our new studio? If you don't have video on, turn your video on and just take a peek. Those of you who have been listening since episode 1, you've been with us since the kitchen table at Nicole's house. And so we hope you guys enjoy this new studio as we are. We're so grateful for the studio, for the support from mostly our husbands, funding our dream and just truly believing in us. So shout out to Ryan and Travis. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Means the world.
Yeah.
Do you think we should start with maybe a little announcement? Or do you want to?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Because you've taken us on a journey.
Yeah.
You've taken us on a journey with this whole process of calling in a soul and...
Calling in a soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. I didn't prepare at all how I was going to say this. And so I suppose it's just best to say it. I am pregnant. I am with child. I got a bun in the oven.
All accurate ways of, sharing the news.
Yeah, I'm pregnant and it's still very much landing. We found out 2 weeks ago. And just adjusting to pregnant life with a toddler, like the fatigue come 4 p.m. I'm like, I forgot what, because when you're not pregnant, you're just like, oh yeah, tired. Like I can push past tired, but it's not just tired. It's just like your life force is being funneled, sequestered into another life force. So in a couple of days we hit 6 weeks. So it's early. We're super early, but not quite at the nausea phase. And kind of apprehensive to see what that is like, but at the same time, just trying to anchor into how good I feel about it. We called it in and we called it in March, and then April ovulation. It happened. So it's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Just trying to anchor into how good I feel and how healthy my body feels. I feel like I went to therapy last week and I was just still landing with it. And I was like, I think I feel good. And I think I feel grateful. And she's like, okay, well, why don't we close our eyes and put your hands on your heart and your belly and let's really check in. So it's not how do you think you feel? And, all that was coming through from a bodily perspective was feeling vibrant and healthy and thriving in it. And just so grateful. And any of the apprehension, because my first experience with pregnancy was so much adjusting, it being unplanned and in a new relationship. There was so much apprehension and so much fear and so much unknown, and just trying to stabilize into the reality of a child and then cohabitating for the first time, being pregnant, and just there was just so much change and so much upheaval of what I thought my life was going to be at that phase, at that time. So, it was just not feeling healthy and vital and thriving in my pregnancy was not really the thing. And so my association with pregnancy is more apprehension and fear. Even though I feel like we got to a good place through hypnobirthing, our hypnobirthing book and fear setting and all that. But I've been looking for apprehension in this. I've been trying to find apprehension. And of course, with the mind, if you go looking for fear, baby, you're going to find it. Mm-hmm. So I've been how are we going to do sleep? And how are we going to, but it was so cool to just drop into my body and be like, oh, we're good. We're so healthy. I have this like desire to stay really strong, not just for baby and for me, but for Rhea, right? Like, I think with my first pregnancy, I needed to just soften completely. I just like, stopped working out. It was just so much to hold. Um, and it just felt like I needed to like just try to soften as much as possible into the new reality. Whereas this feels like literally a couple of days after I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I feel like going for a run. I'm going to go for a run. And I did. And I was like, I would have never in my first pregnancy gone for a run. So yeah, that's the news.
And now we will transition to our second conversation, which was recorded 6 weeks later on June 22nd. Do you want to just see where you want to start from your shares?
Yeah. Gosh, it just feels like like where to start, right? Like where to start. I guess I'll just start with the story. So on this past Thursday, which was the 18th of June, well, I guess it started a couple days before. My cramping during pregnancy is typically dull, achy, and constant. Does that resonate with you? Or does yours feel like more like period cramps?
In the beginning, and then it was just more it was different later on in pregnancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, like Braxton Hicks.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. I had no cramps. I had cramps the first week I found out I was pregnant, like the initial stretching of the uterus. And then I had zero sensation in my uterus from weeks 6 to 10 and a half. And at 10 and a half weeks pregnant, I started getting cramping. But it was like contractions. It was like I'm laying in bed, putting Rhea down, and they're intermittent. And they were like on and like there, not like as mild as a Braxton Hicks. It was stronger. And then it would stop and then it would come again. And I was like, that's weird. I have never experienced that in pregnancy. But every pregnancy can be different. And so I told Ryan, I said, I think maybe I just pushed it too hard today. I'm going to just sleep it off. Woke up the next day, everything was fine. The next night again, got cramping. And then that morning, Thursday morning, woke up with very mild spotting. I mean, like, I peed and I look in the toilet and I'm like, it's like tinged kind of brown. Like, okay, this is TMI, but like, we go to the bathroom at night and we don't flush it. It's like in the morning, we just have like a bunch of toilet paper. So like my pee was kind of like on top of the toilet paper. And like that spot I could tell was more tinged brown. And so I wiped and I kind of stuck some paper up there and it was ever so lightly brown. And then I was like, I texted you. I texted Tasha. I texted my sister. And I was like, did you ever spot early on in pregnancy? None of you had. I was like, I didn't either. But I know it's like up to 50% of pregnant people do spot at some point. Most of it is implantation bleeding, which I was way past at that point. And so I just told Ryan and I was like, I'm just going to take it easy today. Like something didn't feel normal because of the context of the cramping. And so I was like, I'm just going to take it easy. I was just laying on the on the couch with Rhea. And I had not had a confirmation scan yet. And that was, I think, part of my anxiety. It's like, we never saw her beat. I was like, oh God, like this is why viability scans exist. Like this is a huge part of it. So then I called the midwife practice that I ended up birthing Rhea with. and they didn't have an appointment. I communicated. I'm like, I'm anxious. I don't have a heartbeat yet. I'm spotting. That's not typical for me in pregnancy. And it's like sometimes calling the doctor's office as a pregnant person is like being gaslit. Unfortunately, it's like, okay, well, let me see what I have available. No, even like acknowledgement of the fact that I'm anxious, worried. And she's like, okay, well, the first available I have is, I think it was like the 30th, like 10 days away. And I'm like, uh, okay, yeah, okay, I'll take that. Like, I was like, am I making a big deal out of nothing? You know, if I, if she was concerned, if this was a concerning collection of facts, I don't have a heartbeat. I don't usually spot. I'm cramping in a new way, and like, and you know, and I'm like, if that collection of facts isn't even remotely alarming to her, then maybe I'm just being, you know,
Overreacting.
thank you, yeah, overreacting, hypervigilant. Even though, like, I just want to say and validate every pregnant person, like, we're hypervigilant for a reason. Like, what's inside of us is so incredibly precious. And the metabolic output and just like care that we invest into this collection of cells, this life, it's so, the stakes are so high, even so early. And so it's like, of course, we care so much. It's part of us. I mean, I'm like losing that is losing a part of yourself, you know? And so I just hung up the phone and I was like, I'm gaslit. Like, I don't know what's happening. I literally, I'm just going to lay down. And at that point, my mom's like, just relax. I can come pick up Rhea. I'm going on a hike. Like, I'll come pick her up after. I was like, okay, cool. She starts to get a little squirrely. And I felt like I needed to go get fresh air. So we're just walking super slow. It's the beautiful thing about toddlers. You can just move at their pace. And it was so nice. I sent you a picture. We had this butterfly, this like massive, they're called swallowtail butterflies. They're black and yellow. And then the very bottom of their wings is like this iridescent blue. It's so pretty. And it was just hanging out next to us. And we were just staring at it. And I was just like, I kind of felt like I was in a dream state because I think obviously my body was starting to know. And so I was sitting there at the park and I texted actually a girlfriend that lives in my neighborhood. I'm like, did you ever spot? And she sent me a voice note. I told her about the gaslighting thing from the doctor. And she's like, hey, you can ask for an emergency appointment. They have slots at OB places and midwife places that they leave open every day for people who need emergency scans. Like, it's a thing. You can use the language, like use that language. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm going to do it when I get back to the house. I'm sitting there and I just get this sharp pain on my left side of my uterus. I was like, oh, that's weird. And we walk back to the house and I was like, let me just pee and make sure nothing else is coming out. And there was just this quarter-sized clot on the tissue. And I just screamed. I was like, Ryan, we're going to the hospital. We need to go now. And I texted. My mom was in the mountains, literally no service, of course. Texted my mom, texted Noelle. I don't know if I texted you. I texted you.
Yeah. I got your text in the coffee shop.
And we just went to the hospital. And I was like, I don't know what hospital we should go to. Should we go to a Vista? But I just like felt this like repulsion because of that midwife clinic, like kind of not listening to me. And again, I did not communicate, I guess, like the words I was supposed to communicate. But I wish that they had like some sort of triage questioning to determine. Not that like once your body starts passing, there's not really anything they can do. But I feel like there's a narrative around, and like this is why mothers and there's a growing collection of people who distrust hospitals and Western care, is because there's like a lack of listening to the intuition of the mother, which, okay, it's kind of like a sidebar soapbox moment. But so yeah, we went to a new hospital, went to the emergency room, got triaged, got an IV put in. They took a ton of blood, got admitted, and my mom eventually showed up, took Rhea, which I was super grateful for, because I was emotional. And it's not that I don't want Rhea to see me express emotion, but there's a difference between the emotion I'm expressing now that we know, and I can give her explanation, versus like mild panic and not knowing what to tell her, And she was so sweet. Mommy, what you scared from? What are you scared from, Mommy? What are you sad from, Mommy? And I just kept saying, we're just, Mommy's belly's hurting. We need to go check on the baby. And so my mom took her. It's so interesting. Like, I wasn't allowed to eat the entire day at the hospital because they had an IV in me, and they were like, if you're ectopic or if you need this surgery, like it's best if you don't have a bunch of food in your stomach. And my mom told me Rhea did not eat the entire day either. She like would not eat. My mom took her to get pancakes. She made her eggs, like chicken, nothing. Rhea would not eat. And it's just like another way that we're so connected, with our children. And so, yeah, we were just like watching Adam Sandler movies on the phone, on the TV. Ryan and I both had like 10% battery the whole day. Like, we couldn't even like scroll. It was just like, what are we doing? Poor Ryan was fasted.
Oh,
so he also like thugged it out and didn't eat with me. And then I had like another strong cramping and went to the bathroom. I like looked and I saw I was starting to like spot on the bed. And I don't know why, like I just freaked out about that. I was like, I don't know, like the idea of like miscarrying on the bed. I don't know. Which miscarrying in the toilet, is it better? I don't, it's all just so. I feel like the best place to miscarry would be like in the earth, like the foot of a tree, or I don't know. But I guess the toilet goes to the ocean. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just,
I know.
It's just so gruesome.
It just felt weird.
Yeah. It just feels so removed from nature, which is like what, feels like the best place for me to be at this moment. But went to the bathroom and like just more clots, more blood coming out. And that's when I knew. Yeah. I had hope. I was like, I've seen a series of videos on Instagram of a mother late into pregnancy who bled the entire time, like her subchromatic hematoma, the hematoma that can sometimes form where underneath where the baby attaches. And it's very rare that it causes miscarriage. But sometimes it can just kind of be leaking the entire time. Most people's, it either stays closed or some blood lets out and then that's it. But for some rare occasions, it can bleed. So I was like, that's me. Like, there's no way. I have been saying to everyone, like, I feel so strong. I feel so healthy. I feel so connected. I feel so having a great first trimester. And then, but yeah, as soon as I saw that, like that, and just like the sharp pains, it's like, this is not what I'm supposed to be feeling in early pregnancy. Like, this is not normal. And so Ryan and I had a chance to like be emotional, but when you're in the hospital and you're just sort of like in a waiting game, you're kind of like in the twilight zone. You're in like, there's no windows, bright lights, like people coming in and out, the beeping. You're just sort of like in purgatory is what it feels like. There's no clarity. So they were like, we're waiting for an ultrasound machine. Finally took me into ultrasound, and the transport person was like, you're going to be able to see, like, they're not going to be able to tell you anything, but you're going to see the screen. So you're going to be able to see, like, if there's a heartbeat or anything. And I'm like, okay, cool. We get in there. It's the tech's birthday. She has like banners and stuff for her birthday. And I'm like, oh my God. And, yeah, she was sweet, but cold. Cause like, that's their role. They obtain the tests and then they literally have to wait for the doctors. She had to do transvaginal, which I was cramping. So I was just like, and like, honestly, just, I don't know what the word is, but like my whole entire lower body was just contracted. Like I was just like subtly like trying to save it, like trying to hold it, kind of.
Mm.
And so it just felt so weird to have something stuck into me and like pressed against my cervix, which she tried to be gentle, but like, it's like a cervical check in the, during labor. It's like, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's not comfortable.
It's not comfortable. So she left the room and she closed the computer, and I just walked right over to the computer and I opened it, and I'm like looking at the scans and I'm like, babe, there's a baby in there. There's a baby in there. I can see it. Like, that's my uterus, and it says embryo. It says rump to crown. He's just like, why are you looking at that, Nicole? Like, why are you looking? He's like, we talked about this, which we did. Like, let's just brace for the worst, because at the very best, we're pleasantly surprised. And at the worst, like, we are not falling apart, which that's Ryan's, like, remember we talked about it with the split nights? It's the same mentality, which I was really helpful, honestly. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't know why I did that. But in retrospect, I'm so glad I looked at it. I'm so glad I saw it. Like, I needed to see it. I needed to see that there was something inside of me. It was so important for me, for my healing process and my grieving process. And so we went back to the room, and it was like, as we're getting rolled back into the emergency room, they're like, resuscitation in room 2A, all hands on deck. Like, just like, a movie, which it's not as chaotic as, it is in movies, but there was like 2 codes in the hour that we were supposed to get the results. There were 2 codes. So it ended up taking like an hour and a half, and the doctor finally came in, and the bedside manner and just like the care that we received was so nice. It was long, but it was like, they were so caring. And he just came in and he said, the scans that we're looking at show that the embryo within your uterus is only measuring 8 weeks and 5 days. And based on when your last period was, you should be, 11 weeks tomorrow. And so, that, along with the fact that there's no cardiac activity, means that this is a miscarriage. This is classified as a miscarriage. And then, he was so thoughtful, and he's like, unfortunately, this is a very, very common part of my job. And I say that not to undermine it, but to tell you how incredibly common it is. And that the far majority of miscarriages are out of your control. There's nothing that you can do as the mother. And yeah, and before we can discharge you, the OB has to come in to present you your options. And she's in surgery right now, so we have to wait. I was like, okay, of course we do. That's kind of the theme of today. It's fine. And so, yeah, we just asked him some questions. I mean, at that point, like, I was kind of in fight or flight. Like, I wasn't like in a safe place. Cramping was starting to pick up, but it's just your body's not completely in a relaxed state in the hospital. I'm still in the gown. Like, it was just wonky. So I was more like, why does this happen? Do you think my body's going to pass it naturally? Am I at risk for infection? Because I was holding it for 2 weeks. Like, why was I holding it for 2 weeks? And in the hospital, it's so crazy. Like, after I passed that second clot that, like, I knew, I was telling Ryan, I'm like, I'm not pregnant anymore. Like, literally, like, my boobs aren't as sore as they were yesterday. Like, it's so crazy how quickly the hormonal decline happens. I did not think it was going to be like that, which is silly because I've given birth. I know what that drop off is, but that drop off is intense, but you also have a lot to focus on and a lot to love on that I feel like you don't even entirely know personally. I didn't really notice the drop off until like a week or two after, once like the oxytocin high and I think the adrenaline kind of wore off. And then I was like, whoa, like I'm emotionally fragile. Um, but yeah, it was just like, yeah, it was a sharp, like, started to be a sharp decline of like my boobs weren't sore. I remembered that like I wasn't nauseous from one day to the next. And 8 weeks and 5 days would have been 2 days after we launched our podcast. So June 3rd was when around the baby lost its heartbeat, or the embryo, I should say, lost its heartbeat. I'm trying not to think of it as a baby because it just feels like way bigger. Even though like, that's what we called it with Rhea. That's what we called it. And yeah, it's such an interesting thing to think about and reflect on. Like the soul, what if the soul piece, and what if, like, was that soul conjoined to that body? Did we lose that soul? Should we give it a name? Like, do we make it ceremonial? And I think it's all stylistic. But I'm so personal, like how people navigate those things. But yeah, just to get back to the story. So we got in the car and then the cramps just started coming. Like we finally, I'll say that because this is actually an important thing. The OB came in, again, so kind, so thoughtful. And she just presented me 3 options. And the first option when you're having a miscarriage is just to let the body do it naturally, which it seemed like that was happening. The second option is to take transvaginal pills that I didn't get the name of the medication, but they, like Pitocin, it causes uterine contraction and it's more intense than letting it happen naturally, like Pitocin. And then, but it happens, she said it happens faster typically than when you let your body do it. And then the third option, which she said most women opt for, is a DNC. where they dilate the cervix and then they used to scrape the uterus. Now they suction. And that option actually allows you to send the tissue to pathology and obtain clarity on what happened. So if it was a trisomy, and like an extra chromosome, if it's something genetic happening, it helps to gain clarity on if there's something to think about for future pregnancies. She said, because I've had one healthy pregnancy and delivery, this isn't a repeat thing, that she would recommend the DNC. And I didn't want the DNC. I mean, you get put under.
Mm.
And to be honest, and I know this is also personal and stylistic, but I felt like I needed to feel it pass as part of the grieving process and understanding that it's over. And so, she just said, she's like, it's going to be the heaviest period you've ever had. It's a heavy period. So if in a couple days you don't feel like you've had a heavy period yet, call and we'll have to visit one of the other options. And I was like, okay. So we get in the car, the cramping starts coming more strong. And I was just like, babe, I want pizza, which is kind of poetic because when I was in the hospital going to deliver Rhea, the last meal I had before I started contracting, like hours before, was pizza. So I was able to have pizza again. And as I'm eating pizza, I'm just like needing to close my eyes and just like relax my jaw and just like breathe down. Like it was like, oh, this is a contraction. Like this is like a mild contraction. And yeah, had like maybe 10 contractions, finished my pizza and stood up. And girl, it was like someone turned a faucet on. Like I ran to the bathroom and just like, sorry, this is kind of graphic, but just the blood coming out of me. It was like someone turned a faucet on. Like it was shocking to me because he said a heavy period. I have never in my life had a period that was like a faucet. And they say if you soak through 2 pads in 1 hour, you may be hemorrhaging, you should call. But I had no idea because I couldn't even get up. Like I just sat on the toilet for an hour and a half, tried to get up once and like go sit on the couch with them. As soon as I sat down and like tried to lay down, like it just came out again. And Ryan had to like pick me up to take me off the couch to take me back to the bathroom because obviously contracting. And yeah, like, I mean, it's just a lot in your uterus, because even though the embryo stopped developing at 8 weeks and 5 days, my HCG was still at 12,000 the morning of the miscarriage. So my body was still building a placenta. My body was still holding onto fluid, was still developing extra blood. So it wasn't like my body stopped acting like it was pregnant at 8 weeks and 5 days. It took 2 weeks to catch up. And so it's just a lot of material coming out of my body, like a lot of tissue. And I will be completely honest, I looked for the baby. I looked for the embryo. Like I did. I was like with Q-tips and like trying to find it and I could not find it. I did find the placenta. The placenta came out the next day. And yeah, I mean, it's just like the craziest thing to like lose your very underdeveloped embryo in the toilet. It just feels kind of, what is the word?
Unnatural.
Yeah, unnatural. Unnatural. And also, it's so weird. Like, very early on in the process, we were like, okay, we have a choice. Like, we can like hyper attach to this as our child and the soul, and like we lost our baby. Like, we can adopt that narrative, or we can zoom out and understand that this collection of cells, this body that was forming, something was mismatched that would have led to a difficult, hard life. And Ryan and I have discussed, like, if we make it to that 20-week scan and we do our DNA testing and there's something wrong with the baby, but it's still viable with life, like, we've already discussed accepting that and as part of our path, and that there's something there for us and we have a lot to give to that child. And so, but if nature runs its course and it passed on its own, then this body was not viable with life. And I had been visited by the soul 3 times, and the last time was the morning of the first podcast that I announced the pregnancy, and I never felt the soul again. And I have been asking, like, come visit me, like, come, just let me know you're there, like, just let me know we didn't lose you. And if we did, that's okay. You know, I'm gonna, well, and you know, I like told Ryan this morning, I'm like, I'm getting back to it. I'm getting back to it. I'm back in the saddle. And he's like, babe, we are at the very beginning of this. We're still at the very beginning of this. Like, there's no rush to get back to anything. And so I know if the soul was attached to the body, which right now I believe I believe the soul is still going to be in our family and that soul will wait for a new body. But if it was, and we've come to find out that or feel that, then we'll make space for that and decide how we want to move forward. You know, I think there's a difference, like when you find out the sex, when you give it a name, which we did very early on for Rhea, which now I'm like, this is why people wait. This is why people wait. Holy crap. Like, this makes sense. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. I don't really know. Yeah.
You left off just with where you were bleeding when Ryan took you and looking for the baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Just that night felt like I was so weak. I felt so weak. I felt lightheaded. It's just an immense amount of blood loss in like an hour and a half. I just passed most of it. I've definitely, I'm still bleeding and like it ebbs and flows like after birth. It's not like a period in that it tapers down. Which I'm wondering if, remember in afterbirth, at a certain point, like around 2 weeks, the contracting of the placental attachment site creates like a lot of, do you remember that?
At 2 weeks?
Around 2 weeks.
I had more bleeding?
It happened, yeah, that you, like you're kind of tapering off and then at a certain point, maybe it's not 2 weeks. But
yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
To be honest.
Were you in diapers and all that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're also caring for a human, so it's like...
exactly.
It's like, whatever, I'm bleeding.
Need somebody to write that down next time, because...
It was definitely like a big part of my postpartum experience, the vaginal experience, the vaginal state.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it's not for everyone. But yeah, I've just been, my uterus is now closing. And the cervix is now, I feel like by tomorrow, probably I'll be done bleeding. But yeah, it's just been a journey, and I'm really grateful to have Village. I understand why people wait, and also I'm so glad I didn't, because to go through this alone, unsupported. Yeah, I just can't imagine. And again, personal choice and stylistic. And some people would just rather be supported by their partners. But I feel like women have been such a huge part of my support system. And yeah, there's so many layers. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday. You came over a little bit and we just talking about the layers of it all. And one of the layers is that so many of my friends are pregnant right now. And I was the first to get pregnant this time around. And now I'll probably be more like bringing up the rear, which is fine. And also, like, I can imagine, yeah, just the layers around due date and you guys' birth. And not that it's going to be about me, because it's absolutely not. But I feel like it's just something to mention as like part of the healing process of something like this, that you're not just losing the embryo, the baby, however you want to label it, but you're losing the idea, which is so challenging to grieve sometimes because it's abstract, and it isn't even abstract. It's imaginary. Well, I guess that is abstract. It's like, it's just like, yeah. I mean, but there are real things of like Rhea used to cuddle my stomach every night for bed, and multiple times a night, multiple times a day, ask to say hi to the baby. And she had a relationship that was growing. And so that was real. Like, that wasn't abstract. That was a real part of our days that had me think so much about what they were going to be like when they were together in person. And so, yeah, telling her was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. Um, we were just, she asked, and I was like, Mommy, the baby had to go away, and the baby will be back. But we can't talk to it in Mommy's belly anymore. We can talk to it in the sky. And so she's been talking to it in the sky. But she's still been asking, she's still asking for the baby in Mommy's belly. It's going to take a minute. So, yeah, but just like little layers, like there's a name that we loved for a boy, and there's a dog in our neighborhood that has that name that we love. We love this dog. And yesterday we're on a walk, and Ryan's like, "Oh, this dog is out." I don't want to say the name, but the dog is out. And I just literally was like, "Oh no." Like, "Oh no." And yeah, it's crazy. Like, there's layers like that feel like real and tangible. And then there's just like the very real baseline of my body lost something that it cared deeply for. And that is a pain and a grieving that every woman that goes through this has to do in her process, in her time. And there isn't really an intellectualization of it. Like, I thought to myself, like, should I reach out to my therapist? And then I'm like, and talk about what for an hour? Tell the story again. Okay, cool. Tell the story. But like, I just felt like I needed to like weep, and not know why I was weeping, but just let the sadness let the sadness move through me. And yeah, deciding to do this episode felt like giving the pain purpose, because this is a very common thing. Like pretty much 1 in 3 pregnancies. Oh, or no, is that right? 20 to 30% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. So it's something that many women have experienced. And I'd known women who've miscarried, but I haven't heard it. I haven't heard the story, like, to the detail that, to this detail, which, maybe it'll serve some, maybe not for others, but for those that it'll serve, that's why I wanted to share.
Yeah,
Thank you for listening to all of that and just holding all of it with me.
absolutely. I feel you. I see. It's important for you to share. I think it's going to serve more people, more women than you know. Because I know so many women choose to carry it on their own. And that is totally valid. But as women, like you have been sharing with me from the book you've been reading, we work together.
Yeah.
We are meant to do life together. We are meant to give and receive and show up for each other in our times of lack, or show up for those in their time of lack or need or whatever it may be. And that emotionally right now, I feel like is the way most women need to be seen and heard and felt, and how we can show up for each other, you know? And so you have people around you, and sharing it is vulnerable, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
And
Thank
so
you.
I'm really proud of you for sharing and in the detail you did and choosing to do this today. I mean, I had no doubt that you would. And I had no hesitation to sit here and be here with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, especially because you are pregnant.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear just what it's like for you to be on that side of this conversation, and all of the layers and questions, maybe more clarity and security. Like I just love to hear
Yeah.
what it's been like for you.
Yeah. I I do feel like for me, I I've been aware of like the possibility of miscarriage. I think it's just definitely something that, because I think for you it was just like not, which is not a good or bad thing. So I think because it was just in my awareness in a little teeny tiny way, I feel like I was able to hold what was happening to you with understanding, you know? And like, I do believe that the body knows and is innately intelligent and wise. And, we live in this world that's so controlling and logical. And there's just things that happen that are nature's way of uh, helping the species survive,
Mm.
And there's nothing you can do about it, right? And um, so just like having those two things in mind, I felt like I was really grounded. Um, Being able to witness you go through it, very emotional. Like I feel like so, yeah, yeah, like the fact that I am pregnant. So I feel like doing for me is I can understand how it must have felt for you, going from holding something and growing something inside of you to letting it come out of you when it's not supposed to be. And when you talked about how you felt like you were just trying to kind of hold it in, maybe like keep the blood from coming out. Like, I get that. And yeah, so I think it's given me a really massive amount of empathy for you, And one of the layers that, you talked about being one that will probably be the first most challenging, not that other ones aren't, but like trying again.
Yeah.
Trying again. And I'm like, that was the first thing I thought of. So much intention goes into creating this baby, calling in this baby, and for you and for everybody, but like especially the intention you put before, being so clear and so connected. And yeah, and then just pregnancy, for both of us, it's humbling and it's a lot, and like your life force goes to this baby. And so just, yeah, like me being in it, me being 8 weeks in, I'm like, I can't imagine like thinking about doing it again.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm like validating you and understanding and, empathizing with you right now. I think that's important too. But for me, with how it's affecting me personally, it has given me some things to think about. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll keep my nausea in check and see how
Mhm.
it's ebbing and flowing. And I guess I should be grateful for it, like, because it's hard. It's hard when you don't want to eat anything and you don't feel great, but it's a good sign.
Yeah.
It's like so annoying, but like it's a good sign.
Yeah.
And yeah, but like I feel sovereign is what I told you. I feel sovereign and I'm grateful that I feel that way. And also it's like the most gut-wrenching things, the most humbling things, as difficult as they are for the people they happen to when they happen to us. I know I have somebody I can talk to if it were to happen to me, And so, yeah. Um, that's how I feel about it right now.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful to know that, and we've talked about it in relation to our men, the challenging things that we go through make us closer. And yeah, I'm just grateful that I have, number one, the self-awareness to know myself. Like I remember the day after I sent you a voice note and you're like, was not expecting to get a voice note from you.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I know myself. If I don't reach out, I will burrow in, and like I know that is not the way for me. And so I'm just grateful. I know I have to. And number two, that I have really safe places to land.
Yeah.
And thank you for being that for me.
Of course.
And just for witnessing me and showing up. I mean, yesterday meant a lot. For you to come over on Father's Day, I was just like, yeah, I felt bad. And also I was like, I kind of needed, I kind of needed a friend. I can't even, I haven't been able to FaceTime my sister yet. I haven't been able to FaceTime Noelle yet. She's called me every day and I just literally can't like look at her. I can't look at her because I know I'm just going to literally sit on the phone and cry. And it's like, and I think that's what happens when like the most vulnerable parts of you feel safe with certain people. And I think that was why I was such a wreck yesterday, because Ryan finally had like a day where he had some space from work and I took it all. And he was so happy to hold it for me and just be there with me. And it was a loss for him too. It's been a joint effort. He's been in it more with Rhea and more around the house and supporting me more. And it was 50% of his DNA, I mean, it's a loss for him too. But for him, it's all abstract. Like there really was no physical connection. And that's something he had said to me, which was super interesting. A couple weeks ago, I was just like, Rhea says hello to the baby several times a day. And I just feel like you have no connection to the baby. And he very gently told me, like, I haven't felt it yet. I have not felt the baby there yet, like the soul. And I was just like, well, it's the physical thing is in me and it's also for me. Like, I want you to connect with it for me.
Mhm.
And so he made efforts, but in retrospect, it's also interesting. And I'm so glad that you brought up just the nausea thing, because I think that's something I kind of glazed over in my story. But I abruptly felt better. I peaked at nausea the day, probably the day of the podcast, first podcast launch. And literally, like the next day, I was like, oh, I think I'm past the nausea.
Mm.
And by Wednesday, when there was no more heartbeat, I was not nauseous anymore. And my HCG was still high. So if I didn't eat for a really long time, or I smelled garbage, or, like there were still things that gave me nausea, but the baseline nausea that was normal in my first pregnancy and had been normal for 2 weeks prior to losing the baby, I lost. And that's something I learned as well. The sudden loss of a pregnancy symptom is not a good sign. I took it as having a great first trimester. Wow, I'm so mineralized and I'm so healthy and I'm like in such a good mindset that I felt like that had more to do with the lack of nausea. But a good first trimester is actually a nauseous first trimester for most women.
Yeah.
That's what denotes a good first trimester. So it was humbling in that way of like learning, just like how I defined things and how I looked at things. And I don't say that to scare anyone, but it is good to know. I did not know that piece.
Yeah.
Um,
Felt like a big ego check.
It felt like a big ego check for sure. Yeah. It's so funny. I had a therapy session on Tuesday. I usually have therapy on Thursdays, but she had to move it for Tuesday. And I was like, I feel so great. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, "Ugh, what do I want to talk about today? Because like I just feel so well adjusted and I feel like I'm handling this pregnancy so well. I feel like I'm handling Rhea going to Montessori so well. I'm building community. Me and Ryan are great. And also I'm like, I know the ebb and flow of life. So it's not that I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. It's not that energy of like, I can't accept that this is good right now, but it's also like, it just felt like my system was bracing kind of for like, it's just the way life is, good happens and challenging happens. And ultimately it's all good, but some's harder than others. And then the next 2 days later, to wake up and be miscarrying was just like, welp.
Here it is.
There's another ego check, honey.
It's gotta be so surreal. Like that had to be so surreal. If you've listened this far, we just want to say thank you, first of all. We do want to let you know that Nicole and I continued to have a conversation. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues and we did not capture the entire episode. One thing we do want to share and just make space for that happened in that episode is the fact that Nicole chose to cut off her hospital bracelet. It felt like a part of this experience that she was able to control and have a say in when it was time. And even though we were really sad that we were not able to capture the entire conversation that we had, it was deeply meaningful to both of us. And also, it made some space for us to have another conversation, which we're going to transition to right now. Just as Nicole has had 2 weeks post-miscarriage to have more layers come through for her, she thought it would be actually really nice to paint a more full picture of her experience and her grieving process so far. So this conversation was recorded on July 6th, and we will transition to that now.
Part of the struggle for me through this process is how Ryan doesn't seem to be grieving. I'm just like, do you not feel like you lost a child? You don't feel like you lost a child, right? Like I asked him that. And he's like, no, I feel like that soul is still part of our family. And I suppose whether it comes to be embodied again or not, it will always be a part of our family. But I asked him, I told him yesterday how I was like still grieving. And I was like, do you not feel sad? Like, what's coming up for you? Like, you're holding all this space for me. How do you feel? And he's like, I just feel like so much trust and faith that it just wasn't meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have like the physical tie and the energetic input to the embryo that you did. But still, like, yeah, like him saying that, I was like, okay, that's kind of like where I started. I started my grieving journey with like this overarching anchor into trust and faith. And then you start talking about miscarriage and Googling miscarriage, and then your algorithm becomes all grieving parents. And like there are a lot of ideas put into your head. And so I'm also in this place where I'm like, I've started thinking about it as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people name their miscarried children and either bury them or have a box or something. And so you start to get to this place of like, what's mine and what's like an input from another person that I'm now like
taking on their grieving process.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not yours.
Yeah. And I think there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because to grieve something you never had, and I know I had it within me, but like, I think the things you grieve as a miscarried mother is ideas. And they're so abstract. So it's not like, you know, grieving, you know, your mom dying and like you had a relationship and you hugged and, you know, it's challenging. And I think this is the isolating part, because there's no roadmap on how to grieve properly something abstract. But your mind can like get away from you. Your mind can make your grieving more tormented, for sure. Like if I start imagining little babies and what it would have been like to birth that baby and get to know that soul, like that's a rabbit hole that is dark. And I don't know if it's constructive for my process, but it's something I've been doing. I've been kind of just exploring the boundaries of what could have potentially happened. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like one possibility is that soul was just warming up my uterus and is coming back. The body wasn't the right body. Another possibility is that was that soul's work in the world.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's the lack of clarity that is so challenging to make peace with?
I think there are two things that's challenging to make peace with: the lack of clarity and there's like the lack of clarity, and then there's the idea that we're never going to get to know that soul. Those are like the two things, because the lack of clarity is not just whether we're going to get to know that soul. It's also why it happened. You know, it's also like when specifically it happened, and, you know, is it going to happen again? You know, there's a high level of uncertainty that will forever color my experience in pregnancy. And I have a friend that I'm connecting with in my neighborhood. She has 2 kids, but it was her 4th pregnancy. Her last kid was her 4th pregnancy, and her first 2 pregnancies ended in miscarriage. Well, one stillborn and one miscarriage. And she like did a lot of monitoring. With her last pregnancy, she did a ton of monitoring. And then once they got they did all the genetic testing, they did like lots of scans. Once they got to the anatomical scan and everything was fine, she went out to the like reception, and they're like, "Okay, we'll see you next week for your scan." She's like, "Nope, Like, we got here. I'm finally going to enjoy a pregnancy now. Now I feel like I can finally just be with this because I've never gotten to this place without a complication. Her previous pregnancy, like there was her firstborn, there was something, I guess her first live born, something wrong, that it was a high stress pregnancy, high risk pregnancy the whole time. And so I was like, that kind of resonates with me. I feel like I might go that route. I might want more monitoring in the beginning. And then once we get to like viability week, just sort of trust. I don't know. It is, yeah. It's crazy how some women just have 7 children and birth them at home without a midwife and never had a complication, never had a and then there are some women that just like struggle. I mean, there's lots of offshoots to that thought we could go down, but just, I guess what I'm trying to speak to right now is the uncertainty around pregnancy that a lot of women hold.
Yeah.
Do you feel any sense of uncertainty or insecurity in this pregnancy?
You know, I thought about that yesterday. And I don't know how I was thinking about this conversation, but yeah, I was like, oh, I remember what I was thinking about. I was like, well, you know, we've obviously had to, we're figuring out what to do with the episodes where we've talked about your pregnancy. And I'm like, well, I've talked about my pregnancy. So, you know, how do I feel about that? And like, do I have any intuitive feelings around? And yeah, like what I said to myself was, I don't feel anything's gonna happen in the first trimester. Like I feel like everything's just kind of moving along, and I've felt, not that the symptoms are like the only thing to rest the health of a pregnancy on, but I feel like my symptoms have been pretty, you know, just, they have ebbed and flowed with my weeks of pregnancy in a way that's felt pretty on point, where I'm like, okay, things are continuing to progress. And yeah, I just feel neutral is like how I feel in this pregnancy. And for me, that's a good thing. You know, like I think like a neutral place for me is a sign that everything is okay. And also, like, just like you didn't have this like overwhelming intuitive knowing that the embryo was no longer viable. That experience can happen to me too, in whatever way it could, you know, just like you were talking to me about the mom who, you know, had the 20-week scan and there was like a bunch of things wrong, you know. You just never know. But this is another hill I'm going to die on, another one of my taglines. It's just like my core values of like how I want to move. And it's like, I know that for me, going into more of like from this place, from my experience now, trying to like avoid things going wrong, or like do things out of, I wish, just in case of, like, it would be nice to know if that for me would be moving into a more fear-based place right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so right now, yeah, I feel just neutral and like trusting, but neutral. Like, it's just, I don't know how else to describe it. And time will tell, you know?
When you say neutral, do you mean like healthily detached? Like, do you feel like
Maybe.
like somewhat emotionally?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not necessarily detached from the
No.
life you're creating, but like,
That is sort of resonant though for me.
really?
I feel like for Theo and with this baby, like it really took me a long time to like feel connected to them. Like, I feel like until they started moving, like until Theo started moving in me, I was like, oh, there's actually a baby in here, you know, because it's all kind of abstract.
It is.
And so, you know, I will say, like, I do just like, because we're all different in our archetypes, I do understand like where Ryan's coming from in that way. It's different because he's a man, he's not growing the life inside of him. But I think that's sort of more my process too. And I think you are a deeply intuitive and deep feeler. And so like, just like understanding how much you loved that soul already, you know, and how much you cherished what was happening in your body. And like, you welcomed that soul into your family before it was even inside of you, you know? It's a beautiful gift. But I think that's also probably what's so challenging right now for you. You know, is just like how deeply connected. Like the fact that you had visions of this soul is beyond me. Like I will most likely, I don't want to take it out of the, you know, the possibilities, but I don't think that's like, you know, and so you're just tapped in such a beautiful spiritual way, to yourself and obviously to life in general. And so it was big for you. It was really big for you in a, I think a healthy way. But now the grieving is big for you too.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Thanks for saying that. I feel like it clarifies some of the confusion that I've been having, because I feel confused at why this is so big. Yeah. Like, people have miscarriages all the time. People have miscarriages literally all the time. Like, why am I so attached? But I think it was because I had a relationship with it. And God, Sarah, the other day on Friday, like Ryan, I mean, I feel like this is one of our taglines. Ryan was working a lot. Our husbands work a lot. And he's like still trying to like make up for the miscarriage, and then they went on a work trip. He's like still trying to recover from that, like from a work perspective and just like physically. But you know, him going out of town 4 days after I miscarried and then coming back and like needing a lot of space to catch up with work. Like I was just kind of like holding shit down, and that's good. Like I needed to do this. The podcast has been really important for me to like keep moving, you know? And it's just like I haven't had a lot of space to feel. And so the other day on Friday, he finally like ended his calls and came down. He's like, let's go for a family walk. And I'm like, you know, just like been holding shit down and like so tired. And that's one thing, I feel so tired. I feel so tired. Oh my God, so tired. The grief is so tiring. But anyways, we're going for a walk and he's just like, I'm just like nagging him. I'm like every little thing, you know, I'm like, she's going to fall out. Like, you're doing that wrong. Like, you know, just like hyper, like micromanaging his dadding and everything he says, everything he suggests for the weekend. I was like very resistant to. And he's like, okay, babe, like you asked me if I had space to talk, and we're talking, and it's clearly you don't have space to talk. And I was just like, you know, just got quiet. And then we walk back to the house, and he goes upstairs, and I turn around and I'm looking for a butterfly without even realizing, like, and then I just lost it because I was like, please just come see me. Like, come see me. Like, I need to see you. The morning that I miscarried, there was this yellow, black, and blue butterflies. It's a tiger swallowtail. It's actually the largest butterfly in Colorado. And yes, it is butterfly season. Yes, we live in the region that they are very prevalent. And also, yes, that is the soul. Like like it's probably not, but it's like a sign for me. It's like it feels like just a sign, And yeah, I think I'm just like constantly being reminded through instances like that where like without even consciously realizing I was doing it, I'm like searching for that connection with it. Mm-hmm. I miss it. And that feels confusing because I didn't really have it. Like I didn't really have, I'll say this, I had it. I've never grieved a relationship like this before. So grieving feels very abstract. And so, yeah, you saying that and just contextualizing like the fact that I was building a relationship with it. And Rhea and I were talking to it every day and cuddling with it every night. And like, it was part of our routine was to like bring this soul in to our routine and family. And we lost that and it's no longer there. And so there's, yeah. And also like, I really admire the ability to move in a way that nurtures the life inside of you while also holding kind of like a Buddhist perspective about it, a Stoic perspective about it of like, there's an awareness that this could go really right. And there's an awareness that this could go wrong. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think with that perspective is that there's that anchor of trust that whether it goes quote unquote right or wrong, it's going right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yes, I do.
And that's what I feel like I'm trying to get back to. Because I've kind of like the first like week, I feel like I was in largely survival mode until I got that follow-up scan to find out if I needed a DNC. Because I passed it naturally. Like, there's always a chance a piece of the placenta or whatever could get stuck in there. And then you have to get the procedure because it can affect your endometrial lining, and then a new pregnancy has a lower chance of attaching. Mm-hmm. And so I was like terrified to go through the trauma of a DNC after all of this. And so I felt like I didn't really get to start properly grieving until after that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
one thing you had said to me in our voice notes the past week or so, you were talking about how, with the miscarriage and with bleeding, your cervix is open and, in a way it's birth-like where you're not really in, whether you're on your bleed or like full-on birthing, when the cervix is open, it's almost like you're kind of in a different state of being. And yeah, I just am curious if you can speak to that a little bit of how, like, what shifted for you when you actually stopped bleeding. And looking back on, obviously we had the conversation before this when you were 4 days after the initial, like, miscarrying was happening. Yeah, just like looking back and reflecting on the state you were in, and I know you kind of said you're like largely in survival mode, but yeah, and then just like, yeah, can you just share more on that?
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like survival mode, it's kind of like survival mode when you're in birth, like, because I think you are kind of in survival mode, or like if it's like more like primal mode. Mm-hmm. There's not like higher rational thought trains happening. You're kind of deeply in your body.
Like what's happening, but you're not really...
You haven't processed.
In it.
Yeah. You're not You're not thinking about it yet. You're just in it. Yeah. And then, just being with a toddler, like just trying to be like show that toddler joy and attention and presence, you know, which I know I saw something that's like, I had 3 days to grieve my miscarriage and then I had to get back to work. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, yeah, but that's just the world we live in, you know, that it's just part of, and this is where the detachment, the healthy detachment, I think serves. If 1 in 4 pregnancies are ending in a miscarriage, like it's something I think should be part of the conversation as we're preparing to get pregnant and in circles, not to scare women, but to properly prepare women in the same way we should be talking more about our periods.
Yeah.
When we're,
What's
you know?
normal, what's not normal. Yeah.
And the hormonal fluctuations and like what's within like a realistic expectation of ourselves and of other women as they're moving through different parts of their cycle.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think the attachment is a beautiful thing, but it's just, it makes it so much more challenging to, and 1 in 4, that's a very high
Yeah. Most women know,
quantity.
oh, another woman who's miscarried.
Yeah.
You know?
Or have miscarried or have unknowingly miscarried.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But, what was your question?
Actually, I have a different one.
Oh,
if
the
you,
portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you have any
But-
more to share.
I don't really, I need to look into it. Like what about the cervix? It was more of just like an intuitive thing that came through of like, this feels otherworldly in a way. And not survival mode in like, I wasn't in a hyper stressed state, but I was in a state where I was just like, this is something to get through. This is a place, this is a portal into the next phase. And this next phase has been deeper feeling and more thinking and like processing, thinking about what happened.
Yeah. It's like it closed and now you're kind of going to go back through the process.
Yeah.
You could think about it, you know, energetically, right? Moving down the spine, moving down the chakras. And also if you've been speaking to the grief process and a little bit before we started recording, just the different phases of grief that you feel like you've gone through, you know, and that I'm sure, again, after the actual bleeding stopped and the cervix closed is like started that cycle. And, you know, it's all part of it, but
Yeah. It's so crazy. Like, absolutely. And Ryan, after it happened, was like, okay, call Rachel, like my therapist, go to therapy. And I was like, I don't feel like there's anything to talk about besides telling her the story.
Yeah.
And the way that I was weeping or releasing emotionally, feeling in that week that I was bleeding felt cellular. The loss felt bodily. It didn't feel like anything to talk about.
Yeah. Primal was another word you used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, there's shit to talk about.
Yeah.
There's shit to talk about. And whether it's recycled things I've seen online, which I should probably just get off online. But then there's also like the component of like feeling seen and resonant with the things that people are, and like certain people being able to verbalize what I at the moment feel confused about is cathartic, and
It's part of your processing process.
yeah.
So much of what you're speaking to, I said it again before we sat down, and now you just talking about wanting to find validation in other people's stories. It's not the same experience, but the feelings are similar to how I felt after my birth with Theo, just like the processing of it. I was like constantly, like when I would talk to other moms about their births, I would be like trying to see if they felt the same way as me. And like, I would talk about it and just like things online, like trying to make sense of how I was feeling and like why other people didn't feel that way or did feel that way. And so I think it's part of like the confusion around like your experience and trying to like make sense of it, just to make sense of it. Because the other thing, you had said, and just for context, I think it might be nice here, is I asked you if you felt like this experience or like the miscarriage was traumatic in any way. And then one thing you got to later on and, just thinking about it was Trauma is typically when you expect something and then you get something else. Can be, right? It can be a situation. And so I think in a way it's almost like, do you feel resonant with, you were expecting this pregnancy to be, you know,
Easy peasy.
Yeah, I mean,
butterflies and rainbows, literally.
not that was like wrong or bad, but like the fact that was kind of like the only expectation. And then all of a sudden, like the reality of the miscarriage coming in and happening probably felt really out of body, like, is this real? Because it was just like not even a part of, you know?
Yeah. And that's where I think the preparation, like preparing mothers for this potential reality, if it's 25% chance it's going to happen, we should be talking about this preemptively, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also what gave me a false sense of security in the pregnancy was a feeling like I had a relationship with the soul. Feeling like, oh, I can't wait to meet you embodied and get to know you embodied, and feeling like because it visited us that it was a sure thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, maybe it visited us because it wasn't a sure thing.
Yeah. And maybe because it knew you were going to love it.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah. And I'll still love it. Like, I think.
But just in the beginning where not every woman feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I did have a question. Was the emotion that you felt, or the state of mind that you felt around your birth, it was confusion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you also feel like there was grief? Like you had a period of grieving what you thought would be? Because that was the dissonance for you too. You thought you were going to have a long, slow labor, tap into intuition, feel a connection to your baby, and then you didn't.
I think maybe. I wouldn't say though it was a prominent feeling. I think it was more of like just the lack of clarity around why I didn't feel like everything went well. You know, everything happened, you know, I birthed them. But I didn't, I think it was more like I think I just felt confused. I don't think there was as much of a grief layer because ultimately, like, I got what I wanted. Yeah. It was just like the whole process was like, overwhelming, unexpected. And like I felt like I was so prepared, and then I all of a sudden like was not prepared, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't
it is similar in that way.
But the grief piece, no.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It felt unresolved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just bringing in this piece of grief is obviously a huge part of the miscarriage and what women experience, you know, just, and it's dynamic and not linear, right? And so like the making space for it can be and look different. Can you talk about the body dysmorphia that you've been feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I shared with Sarah. Was it yesterday I messaged you about this? We had a different episode. We had a different episode queued up, and then I messaged Sarah and was like, I've been holding this back because I don't want to make this like another episode about this, but like I feel like there's more. Like we did that episode 4 days after, and there's just been like more realness of grieving. So, and one of the things that's been really challenging to contend with is the body dysmorphia after a miscarriage, because the body dysmorphia, and I'll say like a really, really hard part of the post-miscarriage process for me was changing my period app and telling it that I was no longer pregnant. I don't know if I shared that in the first one. Mm-hmm. That actually triggered my first like real release and real like grief wave. But yeah, it's like, you know, you think you're like, at least where I am right now is that I have this narrative that like I should be pregnant right now. Like I'm supposed to be pregnant right now. the other day, I was like, post-workout, Ryan was in the bathroom and I walked in to tell him something and he's like, babe, you look really lean. And like, it triggered me so much because I was like, I'm not supposed to be lean right now. I'm supposed to have 50% more blood volume and like kind of puffy.
Have a bump.
And have a bump. Like I would be in the second trimester right now. So, but then like, it's weird because when I look at my body, I don't see lean. I actually see my breasts are sore right now, strangely. I'm like, am I in my luteal? Where am I? I feel like very confused at where I am hormonally. My nipples are sore. So I'm like, this feels like pregnant. Like I feel pregnant, but there's no way I'm pregnant. And then I'm like, my stomach feels like I feel like I do have a bump. But then I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have a bump. But like I'm looking at my body and I'm like, that feels like a bump. That looks like a bump. My clothes, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I'm seeing what I really look like. I don't know if it's super weird. It's super weird. Yeah, I just had to tell Ryan the other day, like, it's kind of triggering when you're commenting on my body. And I know you're doing it to be like supportive and because you like my body, but I'm not ready to hear like what I look like from you. And he got a scale. He got the Withing scale, which is like you step on it and you hold like this sensor and then it tells you your body composition, how much muscle and fat you have in each leg and arm and torso and visceral fat. And he's just like on a super biohacking train. And I, after the miscarriage, I was like doing it. And he's like, it's fun. Let's do it every day. And let's like track. And yesterday I had this moment where I'm like, this is not a good thing for me right now. This is not a good, I don't need this data. Like I actually need to just like not look at myself in the mirror, not weigh myself and just like get into a good feeling connective place with my body. Because I think one thing that happens on a very, very deep layer for women who are going through miscarriage is a sense of disconnection or a rupture of trust with your body, which is interesting to think about because yes, your body, quote unquote, didn't do what it's supposed to do in form a fully healthy baby, but it did do what it was supposed to do and protect you by miscarrying. But it's the idea of, it's the idea and also the comparison, right? Like a lot of people have healthy children very publicly and miscarry in private. And so there's also like that lack of being able to relate to a lot of women. It happens to so many women. I'm just like so shocked. But what's interesting is that just because it happens to a lot of women, it doesn't mean that all women grieve the same way. We can grieve in different ways. We can grieve in waves. And like I know women who have miscarried who are just sort of like, it happened. Like, and they're saying it lovingly. They're not trying to like gaslight me, but to them, it's biology. It's nature. It's just like, that's something that happens, which is why I think talking about it and normalizing how normal it is, it should be part of the conversation. Not when a woman is actively miscarrying. That's not the time.
Yeah. But
unfortunately, that's when the conversations happen. But yeah, the body dysmorphia, just to bring it back, is interesting. And, we've started to be sexually active again. The first time we had sex, I mean, just him like touching my cervix still like, we've had sex a couple of times and like, I feel like tight. It feels sore. It feels vulnerable. And, so there's like also just a layer of, I don't know if that's relevant to body dysmorphia, but definitely like feeling a little bit uncomfortable being naked, in front of my partner, being naked in front of me. Like I'm just like looking at myself like, this looks like a pregnant body. Like what? I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. Another layer of the confusion.
Another layer of the confusion. Yeah. And I think I wonder, like, even just saying this out loud, I'm like, this layer of this current flavor of grief that I'm in, where the narrative is I should be pregnant right now, if that's energetically having me hold, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And even now I'm just like, I feel a belly. Like I'm touching a belly that feels round. Like it's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But I do, yeah. And Ryan last night, he was sharing, you know, I don't want you to feel alone in your process. I don't want you to feel wrong in your process, but you're asking me where I am in my process. And it's that I'm like, I have faith and I have trust that, like, this wasn't meant to be, and we have to trust it. And who is meant for us is going to come. And he's like, if I can mirror this for you, the core of this pain for you right now is that it should be different. And so I needed to hear that. And it's not that I'm trying to like rapidly move out of this place, but I see the path out now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that I need to anchor back into trust and kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
And I think be more diligent with my thoughts. I think that there's, you know, so much of the release in the beginning was like so somatic. There were no thoughts. It was just purely like genuinely releasing and grieving the loss and processing the trauma of it. Now I feel like I sometimes go down these rabbit holes of imagining what birthing this child would have been like, and Rhea, like, and it's not that that isn't necessary for some people and in some situations, but I don't think that it's always constructive to go down those rabbit holes.
Yeah.
You know, it can be dark.
Totally.
And like, the truth is we just don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know if that soul's going to come back, and we don't know. Like, anyway, so I think what this whole thing has given me, these deeper layers of grief have given me that I think in the beginning, the faith and the trust I was anchoring into was kind of, I think the faith and the trust kind of had me bypass some of these deeper layers of grief. And now that I feel like I've been moving through them for the past 2 weeks, I realize that the nugget for me here is that I don't know if the soul's going to come back. And whether it is or not, it doesn't change the fact that I'd like to do something to honor or commemorate the relationship I had with it and its place in our journey, in our family. And so, you know, we didn't save any of the tissue from the miscarriage. And that was the thing that actually sent me into the deeper waves of grief, was that I have nothing of this. Now, once I stopped bleeding, I was like, it's over. I didn't get anything. I just threw it in the garbage, or I flushed it down the toilet. Like we don't have anything to do ceremony with, and then also just like not being visited by the soul anymore. Like just like feeling like a disconnection from it, and like I'm losing that connection to it. And of course, caveat is that I need to create the new connection and make space for the new connection in the new way. Because what I'm looking for is the same connection I had. And that is gone. So, what these deeper layers of grief have offered me is the need to do something ceremonial.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of who I am, you know? It's like, I'm like, why haven't I done this? So Ryan and I got married last year in Aspen Falls. It's like anyways, the property was called Aspen Falls. And we had this idea to take a small seedling of an aspen tree and to do like a unity ceremony but we also had an 18-month-old and just like was not realistic to do this. And so we've always just talked about it. Like, we should do it. We should do it. And what's cool about aspens is that when you see a grove of aspen trees, for anyone who doesn't know, when you come to Colorado, they're white bark, and then they have really, really beautiful yellow leaves in the fall that kind of shake. They're called like, they're another word for them, or term for them is like quaking aspens. And what's cool about them is when you see a grove, it's actually one plant. And so it's like a family, you know? And I was in a store a couple of days after the miscarriage, and I just see this like little tin aspen grow kit from a seed. And I was like, this is like, we need to do this. And for Father's Day, which Father's Day was the Sunday I miscarried, so we didn't celebrate it until the following Sunday. So Rhea and I gave him the plant or the kit, and then Rhea painted a pot, and we're going to plant the seed. And I want it to be like symbolic of, hope. I think like first and foremost, just symbolic of hope, faith, trust, but also giving ourselves the opportunity to physically grow something and let it grow and let us be able to see it as a family and nurture it as a family. And yeah, just like when it will stay in a pot, they grow 1 to 2 feet a year. So it'll stay small as long as we keep it in a pot. And then when we move into our forever home, to plant it and just have it be part of our family. You know, it's always something that we can go out and see and water and talk to. And so that's like the clarity that I feel like I've gained through these other layers of grief that have come in the past 10-ish days.
Wow. Yeah. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, I was thinking the whole time, like, it seems like you guys need to do something. You need to do something like, make it sacred. And you are.
Yeah.
And, it's just so, I think that's something that is a part of our culture that we've lost, is making it sacred. Having ceremony, you know, and part of the grieving process, like we were talking about, is thinking about it logically, making sense of it, trying to like, you know, ground ourselves in the thoughts around it, the thinking around it. You know, it's also the heart and the soul, right, of just feeling it and grieving what could have been. It's the bodily letting go. It's the active miscarriage. It's the dysmorphia. It's like channeling the anger piece and the frustration around the entire thing. And it's making it sacred.
Yeah.
It's giving it a place to live.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, physically. And so I'm just really happy you guys got there. You got there. And I feel like it is a really important step in this whole process for you. And I hope that alone inspires women to make it sacred in their own ways, you know? And even if it doesn't feel as big as your experience, it can still be something that is acknowledged.
Yeah.
And made beautiful, you know, even though it was a loss.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I shared this in the last one, but something that I heard by this like medium who talks about miscarriage on social media. She said, she was speaking to like the confusion around miscarriage, and that a soul, the impact of a soul has nothing to do with the length of time that it's been on the earth. Did I talk about this in the last one?
No, we talked about spirit babies.
Okay.
But it
the same concept.
didn't make it, yeah. So,
Okay. It's interesting. You shared that. I wasn't ready to hear, to really hear.
Yeah.
Because I was like, my baby's coming back. Like there's no, like,
denial.
I was in denial. Yeah. I was in denial about the potential possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you shared that with me about like the possible reasons of miscarriage through spirit babies. And I was like, which maybe you should share it again because it didn't make it in the last recording. But it wasn't until like I realized I didn't save the tissue and then actually like went into the grieving process of like, oh my God, like what if that was the last thing of that soul? And I just like let it go. And then I was able to like receive potential meanings for a soul not coming back. And what she says, I guess is just the same thing as like that sometimes a soul comes and their purpose in the world is to deeply touch the mother and the father. And yeah, like that the length of the soul being on the earth has nothing to do with the impact.
Yeah.
And why was I sharing that?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a layer. It's a
Yeah.
part of you getting to another understanding and a meaning around it. And, you know, I think it does with miscarriage. It's what you said it earlier, like it is the body's design to miscarry a baby that's not going to be healthy, viable, whatever. So like there's that piece that we can lean into and be aware of and trust, right? Like the body knows. So like my body is doing what it's supposed to.
Right.
And also with this more spiritual, esoteric, like other realm of souls and spirits, you know, we can also tie that in to our understanding. I think everybody will resonate with one or the other, or there'll be a combination of the two. But that there's karmic reasons why our kids are our kids, why we miscarry, why people have stillbirths, you know, why people don't have kids. And I think just like for me, and I don't know for you, I feel like you're kind of at this place, maybe more so now, of just knowing that there are deeply meaningful reasons that not ideal things happen is reassuring. You know, to know that like you did your job. You did whatever that soul's purpose was for itself or for you. It happened. And that's hard. You're like, again, where you're at in the grieving process is like you're either ready to hear that or you're not, you know, and it's not like right or wrong or like you're doing a bad job at grieving or you should be doing it faster or slower. But I do think it's a good way to know where you're at in it, right? Is like being open to more possibilities or, yeah, like, and so, yeah. Is it reassuring to you now? Does it feel reassuring or is it still kind of hard to grapple with?
No, it's comforting.
Yeah.
It's comforting. There was something else. I think it's comforting to know that it might have done its job and that the ways that it has touched me will continue to unfurl, you know, and reveal themselves. And I think in a way it's going to require me to be, yeah, like ironically, like more detached, but also like in that detachment with the next pregnancy, like more deeply connected to the overarching sense of trust in the journey. And also like the reality that this could have been the soul's mission just deepens my desire and my need to honor it, you know? And I feel like that's going to give it a place to live and rest, you know, this whole thing, which I'm not sure when we're going to do it. I'm not sure. It's got me thinking about burials and how we bury people so fast. But it has me thinking about, in this circumstance, how I have the beauty of choice when I'm ready to actually lay it in the ground or in the dirt. Yeah, this is like an offshoot thought of like, maybe it would be cool to like be cremated and give my family the opportunity to like lay me in the ground when they're ready, or whatever, to put me wherever when they're ready.
Yeah.
Because there is something to the concept of giving something back to the earth, giving something to the dirt, to transform and transmute, into something else. And I think that's the beauty of the seed that then grows into the tree that then we get to sit under, right? It's like becomes something else entirely.
Yeah.
But still so deeply meaningful and beautiful. And just, it being an aspen and we got married, it's like there's
symbolic already.
Yeah.
Meaningful.
Yeah. So it does provide me comfort. And also I'm trying to have grace with myself because like there's been many times over the past week where Ryan will like come into the bathroom to tell me something and I'm just like crying in the bathtub by myself or like hiding. I'm hiding my grief. And he'll try to hold me and he'll try to ask. And I'm just hiding. I'm just like physically hiding. Don't have any words. And it's because part of me has felt silly. Part of me has felt like I'm being dramatic and like there's this narrative around like, why is this so big right now? So I'm also just trying to have grace with myself that there's going to be days and waves, and there's duality. Like there's been moments of like Ray was sick the past 48 hours and I just literally had the thought and the feeling of like, thank God I'm not pregnant. This is so nice to just like be with her and not be exhausted or, exhausted from pregnancy and nauseous. And also I've been working out again. I hadn't worked out my whole pregnancy. I was like, this is so nice to work out. Like, thank God I'm not pregnant. Yeah. So there's also like strange things happening where it's like thoughts feel contradictory, feelings feel contradictory, days feel contradictory. Like there's whole days where I just feel great. And then typically after a really great day, I have a really low day. There's like what comes up must go down. And yeah, I guess like I'm just kind of waiting for somewhat of an even keel thing. But what I have noticed and like the weirdest, like it's not what's weird, but we edited, which podcast was the one that we recorded? When I was pregnant, but I didn't know I was pregnant. Should we post our kids online?
I think so.
Just listening to myself talk about I could be pregnant and then like realizing, wow, I was pregnant. I was pregnant there. And then that triggered grief, So like you did, I just don't really know. And I think that's pretty typical of grief is like the littlest thing can set you off. And also the beauty of grief is that you become like a searcher of butterflies and like, a noticer of like the sky more. And you become like more in tune with the beauty and the things, nature, because it's the great mystery and our home and hopefully what connects us to, other worlds, other realms, other possibilities of connection with beings.
Yeah. I'm sure other women who've experienced miscarriage appreciate you highlighting the dualities of sometimes you feel really good and there's some things that you're like, thank God I'm not pregnant anymore. And I'm sure it's just nice, I'm sure, to know that those thoughts and feelings are valid because it can probably feel a little weird when you're so sad and you're deeply grieving and you would give anything probably to still be pregnant. But then you also feel like,
thank God that's over.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so, again, just like feeling contradictory and confused about like feeling both things. I'm just glad you spoke to that.
I mean, it's like the same in pregnancy, wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah.
you can like deeply hate being pregnant and also be
So true.
so grateful you're pregnant. It's
So
just
true.
this wacky
Yeah. Really
experience.
is. And that's life.
Yeah. Literally.
We've said it before, you know, like that's life. And
that's life.
That's life. It's both. It's the dualities. And like we have to, well, we don't have to, it's a choice, but like holding both and having reverence for both, I think is the work, the ultimate work of being at peace with your life and who you are and what's happening to you. You know, it's accepting that things are really great and beautiful and divine and otherworldly, and they're also really real and very human and messy and deep and
tragic at times.
Tragic.
Yeah.
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 And
it's you. I mean, you're kind of a stoic. You're kind of like, even though you are emotional and you do, but I always like tread this line, and it's kind of an offshoot thing, but I'm curious to hear your take, because my understanding of like feeling like somewhat deeply present and at the same time connected to the meta picture and trust that everything happens for a reason, and you know, faith that either there is meaning or I'm going to apply the meaning, you know, that helps me move forward with a sense of purpose and resolution. I feel like that can sometimes prevent me from having the full human experience or hyper attaching to the good feelings, and, you know, and I'm curious to know if like you have found a way to traverse that without losing your human.
It's a big question, a good question that I don't know if I really have. This is just so Sarah. There's just some things that I really just think they're how I am, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, sometimes I'm like, I really should get an astrology person to like tell me, you know, which parts of me are kind of by design. But one of the things very generally that I know about myself is my moon is Libra. In Libra, so your moon is more of like your emotional world. It highly prioritizes harmony and balance and beauty. And so I think maybe that might be something about me that is just part of how because like when I am not doing, like I'm kind of out of balance emotionally, I have to kind of go back into myself and find it, you know, like I have to find the balance, and you do too, but like you are definitely more like extroverted in your processing and sharing and talking through it. And I don't know, it's like, I don't know if that's part of like the balance for me, but I just feel like it's a part of who I am. And maybe it stems from childhood. Maybe it stems from just my soul's work.
Stars. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
And yeah, that lack of like understanding, you know, is I can handle that. You know, it's more making peace with that it is a part of me. You know, like owning that. You know, and being able to hold both expressions, you know, because like we are vastly different as people. And so it's good to have relationships in which we're not the same. Like, could you imagine if like we were both like me, or if we were both like you, where there just wouldn't be the same amount of balance, you know, in any relationship. So that's why we're all different, and why some people like you are meant to have really deep, big experiences. And it doesn't maybe feel normal because, well, one, our culture and society have like, you know, you kind of just deal with your stuff and it's not talked about, you know. People are like, oh my gosh, like you announced you're pregnant when you're 6 weeks. Like some people think that's crazy, you know, but like to wear your heart on your sleeve, to be so open, to talk about your entire experience 4 days after it starting to happen to you is your work. It's your purpose, and as your friend, I do feel like there have been many instances in which I can zoom out for you and for us, even if it's not time for you to embody it. We can offer those things to each other that we don't do as naturally ourselves. And I see you and your gifts,
I see you and yours too.
Yeah.
And I admire you so much. I mean, the
Same.
fact that you're like sitting here able to hold this conversation, 2 of these conversations, being pregnant, like I'm just like, yeah, I'm just so grateful.
Yes, my true honor, as I've said to you. Yeah. It's really an honor. Like, I'm so happy to do this. And I hope that we would do it even if we didn't have the podcast, although this definitely makes it
Forces us.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, well, we have 2 hours, like, let's talk. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge your bravery too for coming on for the last section of this episode and just continuing to talk about it and bring it to me and not be afraid and not feel like you have to hide it.
Yeah.
With me being pregnant and just in general, Yeah. Because I don't want you to do that.
Yeah, it's such a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, just number one, thank you guys for listening to this. And just want to say, even though I think it's something that's like recycled so much, but I will just say it here. There's no right way to grieve. It's such an individual process. And we hope this conversation encourages you to grieve in your own way, encourages you to reach out and share with people who can hold it. Let's just say that, because it doesn't even need to be like Sarah's never had a miscarriage and you've been a big part of my process. And lastly, that if you need it, that you find a way to commemorate that life that was inside of you in a way that feels like closure to you and meaning to you. And if there's anything in this conversation, these conversations that we missed that you'd like to share, please do in the comments. And you have anything to add?
One last acknowledgement to you for being so willing to do these conversations and share so openly. Yeah, it's so many things I don't have words for.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for being just witnessing me in this crazy season, and for being such an integral part of my village and sisterhood, and someone I feel so safe with. And yeah, I just love you so much.
I love you too.
Thanks for helping me hold all this. Okay.
All right. Well, we will see you guys in the next episode.
Yes, we will. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.